Okay guys, I wanted to shoot this video as an example, as a model for the activity that you're going to be completing for the culmination of our look at classification. Now, as the written instructions suggested, what you first need to do is you need to go around the house and you need to find items that you are going to want to classify. Remember that you only need to have 12 of them, but I think the really important part in the 12 that you choose is you need to look for 12 items that have distinct differences and similarities. What I mean by that is I don't think that it's probably going to work out very well for you if you said, all right, I'm just going to do 12 M&Ms and I'm just going to classify them by color. That's not really going to work because all M&Ms are exactly the same. The only difference is their color. So what I've done is I've just I just went and I just grabbed a bunch of just like miscellaneous nuts and bolts. That's what I'll kind of call these items that were around the house. As you can tell by looking at them, they all have some similarities, but they all have some distinct differences that I'm going to use to classify them. Now, I'm going to use this as a model for you to help better explain to you what the expectation is for this. So I'm starting with all of them, and I'm just going to, for the sake of this, I'm just going to draw a circle around them, and I'm just going to call them, all right, these are all the nuts and bolts that I have. Okay? This would be kind of like your kingdom level, right? Now, as I'm looking at these, I'm looking at ways in which I can split these up or classify these based on their characteristics. So I'm looking right away and I'm looking at them and I'm like, okay, I want to split them into approximately 2 groups. And I'm going to say, all right, I can split them into 2 groups because, maybe kind of hard to tell in the video, but those 2 are made out of plastic and the rest of these are made out of, they're made out of metal. So I can take all of these and I can separate them out into 2 groups based on what they are made up of. These are plastic and these are metal. So I'm classifying them first into, well, you could kind of call this like your phylum, based on what they're made out of. Some are made out of plastic, some are made out of metal. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue to classify them out into different groups based on their characteristics. That's the key. When you think about this and how this plays out with organisms out on Earth, we classify based on characteristics. So let's just take the plastic column, for example, or this plastic bubble. Well, these are both plastic. I could also classify these into smaller groups based on their color. One is white, this one, and one is blue, that one. So, excuse me, what your goal is to classify your groups of organisms, okay, or your items, your 12 items, all the way down until you get into an individual classification group. Let me show you another example with the metal. When I look at these metal ones, I can split these into 2 groups. And I can split these into 2 groups based on, some of these items are smooth, like that nail, and some of these items are rigid. Okay, they have a rigid structure to them. So I could take them and split them into 2 groups based on smooth and ridges. Check this out. That's smooth. That's smooth. These have ridges, though. Look at all these. This one's smooth. These 2 have ridges. This one, the outside is smooth. The outside is smooth. But those have ridges. So I've just, using their characteristics, split these into 2 more groups. Yes, they're metal. Yes, they were in nuts and bolts. But these are smooth and these are ridges. Now I'm not done yet because I need to continue to break these out into separate groups based on their characteristics all the way till I get to the individual level. I think one of the common issues that some are going to have is that you're going to want to break these up based on what they are. That's not the point. The point is to break these into different characteristics based on their, break these into different categories based on their characteristics, not what they are. So let's look at our system as we have it so far. Okay, I've got all of the nuts and bolts. I split them into metal and plastic. I took my plastic ones and split them further based on their color. And then I took the ridges and I put them over here. And I took all the smooth ones and I put them over there based on their characteristics. Now, the final part of this assignment is once you get them broken down into individuals, okay, into this, call it this species level. We could kind of call it like, these are like species. When you get it broken down into the species level, each organism gets a scientific name. Okay, following the rules of binomial nomenclature like we practiced, each one of these is going to get a scientific name when it gets down to its individual level. Well, I only have one white plastic and I only have one blue plastic, so these are done and I'm going to give these a name. Scientific name, genus, species, and then remember that scientific name sometimes is a descriptor of the organism. So I'm going to call this one Plasticus whitus. Whoops. Remember, it's got to be lowercase. Plasticus whitus. And I'm going to underline it because it's kind of hard to italicize. And then I'm going to call this one, they share a genus, so they have to have the same first name. Plasticus bluus. And I'm going to underline it. All right. So go back and rewatch if you have to help you better understand what the assignment is and what the assignment entails. Remember, you were finding 12 objects that have similarities and differences and characteristics. Follow the model that I started here in organizing your objects based on their characteristics. All right. Once you get to an individual level where you have the item all by itself because it's the most specific classification organization that you can create for it, you then are going to give each item a scientific name. Now remember, a scientific name has to follow the rules of scientific naming, a genus name and a species name. Organisms that are similar will have the same genus name. Remember, these were both plastic, so I called them both Plasticus. And then I used whitus to describe the white one, and the blue, I just used the word bluest to describe it. Part 2 of this assignment, I will have another video to model what it is that you will do for part 2 of the assignment. This is just part 1. If you have questions, please make sure that you let me know. Thanks.